Welcome, Husker fans. Thank you for tuning into Big Red Radio. I am your host, Caleb Jennerat. Next to me is my co-host, Zach Jennerat. Zach, how are you today?
Doing good. Another week, another win. Hopefully another win this weekend. That'd be huge. If we're able to win this weekend, I don't think there's any reason we shouldn't win the West. So I feel like this weekend proves a lot. Yeah, feeling good.
Yeah, our Huskers are first place in the Big Ten West currently. I'm sure everybody watching this knew that. Yeah, it's big time. Before we get into it, we have a lot of news to talk about. A lot of stuff happened today. Shout out all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. We've been posting on Facebook a lot. Going to get back to posting on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Again, got those all scheduled out and stuff, cutting up these videos, cutting up the clips, hopefully to get your engagement back up. So looking forward to doing that. Shout out to Tony the Tiger for being the closest in score prediction last week. Again, he predicted the one-score game. So he got the closest. Someone please knock this man off his pedestal. I feel like he's getting too cocky out there. So, but shout out to Tony the Tiger. He keeps commenting and he keeps getting close enough. So before we get into the big news, comment down below who is the biggest threat to Nebraska in the Big Ten West, because obviously Nebraska's rolling and nobody can stop us. So comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in this next episode that's going to be on Friday. So you got anything else before we hop into it?
No.
All right, so hopping right into it, before we get to the review of the game, IGC heads into the transfer portal. Will redshirt this year, still leave eligibility left on the table. It was a little weird. The season's been a little weird for him. He came with the idea of being the number one guy. Looked really good in the Northwestern game, caught a touchdown, but kind of just started falling off in production after that.
Well, he was hurt.
He was hurt.
Yeah, so he got one reception in the Oklahoma game, didn't gain any yards on that. But I think the Oklahoma game was kind of weird, first of all, because you can't find Nebraska in a worse spot than we were in the Oklahoma game. And then nobody really got a whole lot of playing time second half of the Oklahoma game. Mickey pulled Grant. Mickey pulled, Casey Thompson. He pulled Trey Palmer. Like, he pulled all the guys out to give the other guys some looks. And so you can't really take that. And he was hurt for the Indiana game, then didn't travel with the team for Rutgers. I'm not mad at the guy. I think that's his right to, like Mickey said today in the press conference, that's his right to transfer. Coaches leave all the time. It's only fair that players can leave as well. Can't really be mad at the guy for it. If he wants to go be the number one somewhere, I wish him the best. But yeah, I don't think he was going to do that here.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish he would have just, been okay with being supporting cast here, because I think he falls perfect in that role. He would have been really good at it.
Yeah, and he was really good in that Northwestern game, like I mentioned, and he showed that he has talent, and definitely gonna miss him. But that's just how college football is. If you're not getting the looks you think you should, if you're not getting the playing time you think you should, you can just get up and leave and go play somewhere the next season. So, yeah, I mean, he's got every right, and I'm not upset at him for it. So, but it seems like replacing him is Tommy Hill. Definitely strange what's been happening with Tommy Hill. In the Oklahoma game, there was some things that came out about him having an argument with one of the coaches, getting an argument with the coaching staff. So they benched him. And then last game doesn't really play, returns some punts. Same with the Indiana game, doesn't really play. That's Malcolm Hartzog, big story, starts over him. And it was just weird. And then all of a sudden, last game before the game, he is working out with the receivers, and we're like, what is happening? And then he wears number 2 in the game. And so that really opened up a lot of questions about IGC. And then it comes out this week, he's working out with the ones on the offense. And he's super talented. I mean, all through the offseason, you heard how athletic this guy was. And apparently in high school, he was a beast at receiver. So I mean, I'm not doubting this coaching staff at all. And Mickey Joseph has worked with some of the best receivers in college
Yeah.
football history. So I'm not doubting him at all. I just think it's so weird how all of a sudden you can go from one of our starting corners to flipping over, taking 2 weeks off, and then now you're a starting receiver. I'm excited to see. I mean, the dude's an athlete, and I'm excited to see what he can do. But it's just weird overall.
Yeah, so Mickey also broke that down in the press conference today. He said that Tommy Hill was struggling at corner, um, and that he felt like Hartzog could do a better job there. And I think he has.
Yeah,
But at the same,
he got picked on a little bit last game. But I mean that's what's gonna happen. You're a freshman
yeah,
corner and he's super raw and he's got potential, but yeah.
yeah, and but at the same time, he came back and said Tommy Hill's a guy you have to have on the field somewhere. He's a hard worker. He's a great athlete, great kid. He's like, I've been looking and looking and looking for a spot to put that kid on the field. And he played receiver in high school and was, just as recruited, maybe a little less at receiver in high school as he was at corner. And so he said, I just, took him to receiver and had him work out with those guys, and he's a stud there.
Yeah, so looking forward to see what he can do. Maybe I don't know how much playing time he's gonna get against Purdue, maybe a lot because he's working out with the ones in practice. So super excited to see what he can do. Anytime you can put athletes on the field against a good team like Purdue, it's going to be good for you. But we'll talk about Purdue more later in the week. Right now, we got the review against Rutgers. So interesting game. I didn't watch it live. I did watch the last two possessions live. So that was exciting, but didn't get to watch the first half. Maybe a good thing that I didn't get to watch the first half, and some of the second half as well. It just wasn't good. But let's start with the good news. So the good news, like I mentioned, Nebraska played the worst first half possible, I think, and still ended up winning. So I think that's credit to our offense, definitely credit to our defense the whole game, which is my second thing. Defense has found themselves somehow, found that effort, found the intensity. And then my last thing is, like I said, the effort. The effort's going to be there. These guys still want to win football games. These guys still want to win for these coaches. And I think this game is really telling that no matter what happens the rest of the year, they're still going to go out there and fight and be competitive, which excites me and should excite the fan base a whole lot.
Yeah. What I like is that if this is old Nebraska down 13-0 going into the half, we probably end up losing this game like 28-10, 35-14. I mean, we get our butt whooped in this game. I saw that a lot in the Indiana game too. If we go into half 21-21 after being up 21-7, had a terrible drive, had a bunch of mishaps, we end up losing that game like 35-21. Like, that's old Nebraska. That's what would happen. And so 2 times now we've seen we go into half and we make incredible halftime adjustments. Bill Bush makes incredible halftime adjustments. Mickey Joseph, incredible halftime adjustments. That's 2 back-to-back second half shutouts. And as well as, like you said, the defense played phenomenal. The Rutgers team had 9 yards rushing in the fourth quarter and 34 yards passing in the entire fourth quarter. And you can make a case for the rushing yards because, for part of that fourth quarter, they were trying to come back and keep in the game. But 34 yards passing, like,
Yeah.
that's really, really good. We forced turnovers really well. And Rutgers being a passing team, we held them 233 passing yards for the entire game. And that's
Yeah.
with that terrible first half. So yeah, this defense is, I don't know if I want to say fixed, but much improved. They also asked about black shirts today, and the press conference was actually the very last question. And Mickey Joseph just said no and walked off. So not entirely sure what's going to go on with black shirts, if they're even a thing anymore. I hope
Oh,
they are.
I think they're a thing. I think he's just waiting for that prove it game. This is the prove it game, I think. So
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I like that a lot. And then just the way the players, a lot of people are going to trash the players for the way they celebrate at the end. I'm not a big fan of them dancing on the Rutgers end zone in front of the Rutgers fans, but I like that we know we can win now, right? I like the energy that we have now. I like that we're not used to losing. Like we're used to winning now. Like that's the Nebraska thing again. Winning is us.
Yeah. For winning to be expected again, and if to be disappointed to lose and to be really happy to win, I think that's really good. And I think that feels really good as a fan base and as a team, I'm sure. As you can see, they definitely felt good about that win. Yeah, I don't hate the dancing. I don't hate it. Um, I'm glad they're excited, honestly, with all they've gone through this whole season to finally win 2 games in a row. I mean, and be
Yeah, and also
first place in the Big Ten West.
if Rutgers is gonna go out there and flex that you have a sellout and then have
Yeah,
60%
and
of your
just not have
stadium
a
show up,
sellout.
you deserve to get freaking danced on. That was terrible. Mickey also addressed that in the press conference today. He said, "I hope Purdue sells this out because we were told we got to play in a sellout last game and players got excited and then Rutgers let us down."
Yeah,
So,
no, definitely. So switching over to bad news, and there was definitely enough bad news in this game. Um, the offense was a 0 in the first half. I mean, when I'm not even bashing Mark Whipple, or I mean, there was definitely some interesting play calls that definitely maybe should have been different. But when you're playing with an O line and when Casey Thompson is playing with less than a second and a half to make a decision, the offense isn't going to look good. And that's what was happening. Casey Thompson was getting hit every single play, and it just was not good. It was not good. And I did see that Mickey did address this as well. He said he wouldn't rule it out if that they're going to make another change in the O line just because they have to figure something out. And that was bad. It was really bad. It was really bad. And they played a little bit better in the second half, enough to let Casey Thompson, you know, find some receivers, score some touchdowns. Anthony Grant to get a little room, still only finished with 47 rushing yards, I think was
mhm.
what Anthony Grant finished with, which is a little disappointing. Um, but I mean, it's not his fault. I don't think it's not his fault. Next is, yes, we did win the game, but let's not act like Rutgers is a good football team. Rutgers just doesn't have the talent. Just does not. It's not a talented football team. And if Nebraska plays that way against Purdue to start out, it won't be close at halftime. Like it won't be a 2-score game at halftime. Purdue's going to be
No,
up 28-35, nothing.
yeah.
So Nebraska needs to figure something out this week to really get it going, because Purdue is a much more talented team than Rutgers. And like we've been saying this whole time, this is the prove it game. You've beat 2 sloppy teams and you've played 2 sloppy games in a row, still found a way to win, which is something we haven't been able to do in the last couple of years. So we're still excited about that, but that's not going to work anymore. So let's figure something out, and let's figure something out quick, because I do think Nebraska has the talent to match up with Purdue, but they can't play the way they did in the second half or the first half.
Yeah, I didn't like that Casey Thompson didn't get a lot of time. Um, I know Mickey Joseph was saying today that the 2019 LSU team, I mean, one of the best teams to play a season of college football. I mean, that team was spectacular. No one really came close. He said they had a different 5 every week on that O line. He said the same 5 didn't play every week. They had a different 5. It was constantly rotating. That's how you keep competition in there. They're all good enough to play because they all compete to be the starting guy. And so he's like, if you see a new guy on the offensive line, don't get scared, don't get worried. He's like, that's how competition works, and that's how these guys get better. Um, and so I like that, but the offensive line does have to get better because when you give Casey Thompson time, he is legit.
Yeah, he's played really good when he's gotten a chance.
Yeah. So when you give Casey Thompson like 3 seconds, 3.5 seconds, dude is incredible. The deep ball accuracy is insane. He can move around in the pocket. He's not a scrambler, but he's elusive. And I mean, he's a top quarterback in the Big Ten right now, if you can give him time. So we got to give him time. That's something I'd like to see more of. And then I really didn't like being down 13 at the half. I'm glad that we, found a way, because that's, like you said, something we don't do, but we can't let it get there. Right? That we're a team with an offense that has got to start fast and has got to just go out there and play really hard and put it to the team, and that's when the defense comes out and kind of finishes off the job. And then 4 for 15 on third. I know this isn't old Nebraska, but just in recent years, Nebraska is very good on third down. Somehow, some way, 3rd and 10 plus, or even 3rd and 8, we thrive. Somehow, some way. And now with Grant, 3rd and 5 and less, we need to thrive there as well. And so 4 for 15 on third is just not acceptable. You can't have that. And that needs to be like bottom line 10 for 15 on third, right? And so we got to be better on third down. And then the rush defense. I know Rutgers had a good defense, but Purdue's got a better one, a much better rush defense than Rutgers did. And we had 2.5 yards per rush. So,
Yeah.
And I understand that takes into account some sacks we had taken in college. They count sacks as rush yards. That's a little different than the NFL. But Anthony Grant averaged 2.5 yards per rush. So you can't average 5.5, but when you're 230 pounds, you should probably fall forward 3 yards. So if you can run 2, right? So we got to get running the ball better, because that's how we're going to win games. I know we have Trey Palmer and Casey Thompson and Marcus Washington, right? Now Tommy Hill back there. Great passing offense. In the Big Ten, you got to run the ball.
And Nebraska's been able to run the ball all year, so it's kind of just weird, out of character to not be able to run the ball this game. But as I mentioned in the preview last week, Nebraska has to win the turnover battle because Rutgers forces turnovers, and Nebraska did win the turnover battle. I think Nebraska finished with three interceptions, and Casey Thompson did throw 2, but that's still a win in the turnover battle, and we won the game by 1 point. So it's going to come down to that, and Casey Thompson definitely could have been better on those interceptions, but that's not entirely his fault either when you're getting hit that quickly and you just have to make a play. So not faulting him too much on that, but turnovers definitely do need to get a little bit improved, but good on our defense for getting those as well and sealing the game with them as well.
Yeah,
so.
And then I like how that pass rush showed up this game. The one we've been looking for. We didn't have we had 3 sacks. That's not groundbreaking by any means. It's decent. It's not groundbreaking. We had 7 tackles for loss. That's decent. That's solid. Statistically, it says we don't have any QB hurries. I don't think that's true. I think we were just grilled all night. And I think that's why he threw 3 interceptions. Right? I think that's why there was 3 interceptions, because Ochoan Mathis, Garrett Nelson, right? Heinrich on some blitzes. I think Caleb Tanner got in there a couple times. Miles Farmer might have on a couple. Just sending guys, and I like how simplified this defense is, and especially Luke Reimer getting in there and causing some disruption this week.
Yeah, Luke Reimer kind of. We'll talk. I'm not spoiling anything, but I'll talk about Luke Reimer a little bit later. But yeah, you mentioned the pass rush. Garrett Nelson has 4.5 sacks on the year, but I think in the first 3 games, I think he only had 1. So, yeah, however you want to look at that, he's been a lot better these last few weeks, and we know Garrett Nelson can be a beast. Ochoan Mathis has stepped it up as well. Hasn't gotten really the counting stats, but if you're just watching, he's disrupting everything. Had a huge play late in that Rutgers game, deflecting that ball, making it not pass interference. That was huge. So shout out to Ochoan Mathis, shout out to Garrett Nelson. Those guys are playing really, really good. But moving on to our MVPs, starting on offense, I'll start it out. My offensive MVP is Travis Vocalek. The dude was just a safety blanket all game, finished with 6 receptions, 46 yards, and a touchdown. And we saw when he was gone, it was really big. Vocalek is Casey Thompson's safety blanket, as I mentioned. and he's just always so reliable, has great hands, even has this little scary after the catch athleticism that he shows, and just finds ways to get open. And when a tight end can just find ways to get open, it helps out an offense a lot. So Travis Vocalek was my offensive MVP.
Yeah, I honestly thought mine was going to be unique, but I guess not, because mine is also Travis Vocalek. And everything Caleb said I like as well, but what really stuck out to me is the toughness. Not only of Travis Vocalek on this team, but specifically with Travis Vocalek, he dislocated his ankle, popped it back in, kept.
Can't
And
even imagine.
I believe he caught a pass, got tackled, dislocated his ankle, popped it back in on the sideline, of course, not on the field. Came in the next play and got another pass. I mean, this
That had
dude
to be
is
hurting
just
him after the game, though.
this dude is like Austin. Like I wouldn't say Austin Allen because Austin Allen was a beast, but
Yeah.
he's showing signs, right? Like he's
Mhm.
showing signs of being at that level, and yeah, I mean, Trey Palmer was also up there for possible. He had 4 receptions for 64 yards and a touchdown. A great uh, completion between him and Casey Thompson right after that was a interception. Yeah, right after an interception. Um, a great, I mean, incredible connection between those two. Well, one play, like 35-yard drive, just right to the end zone. They knew he was going to be open. Um, so that's awesome for him. And then Casey Thompson, just for his toughness. Mickey Joseph said today when Thompson went down on his left shoulder, he told Mickey, he said, "It's my left shoulder." And Mickey was like, "Okay, well, you throw with your right, so you can get back out there and keep playing." And so he did. And uh, apparently Casey Thompson's dad was very tough as well, and so he comes from a tough upbringing. And I like that we have a quarterback that's back there that will take some shots because he realizes that he runs an offense that you're going to take some shots in, and so you got to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, shout out to all of those guys. And like we said about how good Casey Thompson is when he has time, if you give Trey Palmer 2.5 seconds to run down the field, he's going to be open. So he's always going to be the fastest guy on the field. So shout out to Trey Palmer and shout out to all those guys. But yeah, Travis Vocalek played a great game. Defense. This one is one that's not going to stand out on the box score a lot, but I mentioned it earlier. Luke Reimer, he finished with 5 tackles, 3 solo tackles, and 2 pass breakups. But the big thing for me is he's just the anchor. Nick Heinrich was struggling a little bit at the beginning of the game, getting stiff armed, just missing tackles, and then Luke Reimer comes in and is just this safety blanket that is going to make these tackles, and he's an all Big Ten type of guy, and he's really showing out and becoming the leader of this defense again with Garrett Nelson and Mathis. So he was graded out as the best linebacker in the country last week, according to PFF. So whatever you think of PFF, take that in consideration. But just to be up there as number 1, I mean, that's got to mean something. So Luke Reimer has been playing great these past 2 weeks and definitely played great last week.
Yeah, absolutely. Luke Reimer played lights out, and he's a guy that stepped it up as this defense has. He was playing rough the first 3 weeks, and now he stepped it up, and so that's awesome to see. And then for me, I personally chose Garrett Nelson here. He's also someone that stepped it up. Didn't really have as much noise as he was supposed to in those first 3-4 weeks, but this week he finished with 11 total tackles, 2 solo tackles. But on the D line, it's hard to get solo tackles because everyone's just wrapping everyone up. 1.5 sacks and 2 tackles for loss. And so that means he's getting through the line, right? And when he's not getting through the line, he's stopping people right after the line. And I think like I said before, 9 yards rushing in the fourth, like Garrett Nelson played a huge part in that, because without him up there on the D line stopping that run, they probably break through on a couple of those, and they may even run down the clock when they're up 13-7 a little bit, and then maybe we don't score, right? And so huge piece of this team.
Yeah, no, defense has stepped it up as a whole, but yeah, Garrett Nelson and Luke Reimer have definitely stepped up big time. Special teams, this one was kind of tough. Not a lot stood out for special teams. So I picked Brian Buschini. I mean, 7 punts, averaged 40 yards a punt. That was great. He did have a punt blocked, But so that's a
That's
little tough.
not.
But
I mean, that's
that's
not
not really
entirely
on
his
him.
fault. So that's not his fault. It was more awareness on the punt team than it was on Bushini. Maybe on him. Maybe he should have called timeout or whatever if he saw it. But Rutgers overloaded us by I think two guys on one side, and so we just couldn't physically block all our guys. They had too many, and so I think they pulled their corner off the receiver and came in at it. And that sucks, but it happens.
Mhm.
But yeah, mine was also Brian Bushini, like you said, 7 punts for 40 yards of punt, 49 long, one down the 20. That's pretty good. But what I really like is I don't know if you see that dude walk off the field, um, or I should say hobble off the field.
Right.
But the fact that he's still going out there and taking those punts and putting them average of 40 yards, like, and they had some returns, so that hurts his numbers a little bit. And so average of 40 yards and a bum ankle and still going out there fight. I mean, I just love the toughness of this team. It's incredible. From the quarterback to the defense to the tight end, all the way down to the punter, right? Everyone's playing through everything out there. And that's really what Nebraska football is.
Yeah, the punter's a beast. I can't say it enough. I mean, I just wanted to shout out that the special teams has gone this far without making a big time mistake. Or I mean, they did last game, but made it until this game and making a
But
big
no,
time
there's the
mistake.
thing. We didn't make a big time mistake because Rutgers blocked our punt and returned it to like the 15 and got three out of it, right?
Right.
And so that's a staple to that defense right there. Is we didn't allow them to, and if they score there, we don't win. We don't win the game if they score. And so yeah, I think that's huge. That and I think Bushini might have made the tackle, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, just in comparison to last year when you get scared every time the punt team walks out there.
I mean, yeah,
This year when you're like, we got a punt, but at least we know it'll be downed in 20 most likely, you know?
yeah, and it's like so like we get the punt blocked, right? And we're like, oh, could this half get any worse? We were down 10-0, now we're down 13-0. Indiana game, right? We're up 21-7. Oh, Trevor Purdy gets sacked, fumbled, touchdown. Turner Cochran goes out. Oh, toss it up, beats Malcolm Hartzog over the top, touchdown, tied up, and we still win these games, right? Last year versus Iowa, we're up 21-3. They block our punt for a touchdown. Grant, we're still up 11 points, and
Mhm.
that was the turning point in the game, right? Versus Northwestern, we're up, what was it, 17? We make a onside kick call, don't get it, lose the game. Because, I mean, that really switched the momentum. And in both those games, we were still up double-digit points. But in these games, we were either tied or down double-digit points, and we found a way to come back and win it. And that is huge to me because, like, it's like night and day, honestly. Like, not just the defense, not just the offense, not just the special teams, not just the coaching, but the entire, like, mantra and energy of this team is like night and day that we just go out there and we fight because we want to be there. After that Oklahoma game, watching Mickey's press conference, he said, I want guys that aren't here because they want to play football for somebody. I don't want guys that are here because they want to play college football. I want guys that are here because they want to play football for Nebraska and they want to represent Nebraska. If you don't want to do that, then see you later. I wish you the best. And I think the guys were like, okay, well, let's get behind this N on our helmets, right? And
Mhm.
let's go play for Nebraska. And I think they're doing that now. And I think a lot of the guys are really buying it, really buying it.
No, yeah, for sure. And that's what I mentioned not last week, but a few earlier in this episode is that the effort's there and they could have easily just laid down after, their coach gets fired. They get beat by almost 50. It was just a bad 2 weeks. And the team players could have easily been like, yeah, I mean, I'm done. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. And then like leaving, transferring out, but they're sticking around. They're trying to win for the coaches that they respect and they want to win because they're competitive people. And that's what we really need. And I think that's been a huge boost to the morale and to the whole team. It's contagious. Effort's contagious, and you're seeing that on the field right now. That's all I have for the review of the Rutgers game. We will be back on Friday for the preview of the Purdue game. Looking forward to that one. So yeah, looking forward to this, another night game. So looking forward to this. Do travel to West Lafayette, so it's gonna be a little bit tougher. I think it will be a little bit tougher than what Rutgers gave us last week in terms of
Yeah,
an
but
environment.
also, I mean, I want people to realize that was our first away game. Like it may not have been they may have only had 30 people there, but it's still a hostile environment. And
Yeah,
uh, personally, I think it's like dark in Rutgers Stadium. I don't think they have enough light.
yeah, it
Every
did look kind of
every
weird.
time I watch their game, I don't think they have near enough light in their stadium. It's really weird, but like it looks darker on TV
Yeah,
almost for some
yeah,
reason. I don't know, but um, that was our first away test, and I think that had a little bit of part of why we were slow. That's a long, I mean, that's a way to fly
it's
there.
definitely the farthest travel
Yeah,
right now because I mean we're adding 2 California teams in a few years, but
going to Indiana. I mean, come on, right?
right,
So yeah, I think this should be good. I think we're going to be a little more prepared. I think this team is a little more bought in now after 2 wins, two back, and they know we can fight and win now. The energy after the Indiana game was like, oh, that was cool, that was cool, that was fun. The energy after the Rutgers game was like, okay, we're here, like this
yeah,
is us now.
let's do it.
Um,
Why
yeah,
not us?
and what I really like to hear Mickey say today was because someone asked, they said, what do you say to the players at halftime when you're down 13-0? And he was like, to be honest with you, what I was trying to do is fix everything and change everything. And the players straight up told me, Coach, no, don't worry, we got this. We're gonna win. Like we'll come out and win. Like minor adjustments, Coach. We got it. We know what we need to do. And they did. Right. And before, I personally think in the locker room of prior games, Nebraska teams have given up. Iowa game being one of them, right? Um, Maybe not in the locker room, but like just morally, I feel like Nebraska teams have given up, and now they don't. Now they fight to the end, and we're somehow now a full forward team. Love that. We just need to start a little faster next time. Defense needs to come out early. They did last time. If you can play that bad of offense and have a block punt and all that, and only give up 13 in the first half, that's very impressive. Minus that freaking Noah Vedral run that he could never produce at Nebraska for some odd reason, but wants to
Dude's been
produce it at,
playing college football for 10 years.
yeah, wants to produce it at a place like Rutgers. Congrats. Hope you're happy now. Other than that, like the defense played lights out.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, yeah, comment down below what team is the best team in the Big Ten West for Nebraska the rest of the year. Follow the socials that are going to be up on your screen now. Always going to have updates over there, posting a lot on Facebook, and you guys are really reaching out with that and providing a lot of feedback. So really appreciate that. No matter if it's good or bad, it's always fun to look at. So yeah, keep an eye out for this week's later episode for the preview of the Purdue game. And yeah, that's all I got. So we'll see you later this week. Go Big Red.